anyone who's entering the market, whether somebody has woken up today or tomorrow morning having received maybe a gift, or somebody's passed away and they've received an inheritance, or they just wake up and decide that actually the stock market's no longer for me, or contributing to the pension scheme is no longer for me, I want to put some money into property. There's a dearth of advice, of free advice, even paid for advice that's available. And the advice that I give to people is, well, first of all, let's spend some time building up a relationship, because when you're buying a property, it's a significant investment. Whether they're buying it cash or whether they're buying it with a deposit, it's probably the second largest investment that they're going to make, the largest being their own home. And they should make that very carefully, and they really need to think about the exit route. And I don't mean just the financial exit, but is the property going to be saleable? So would you buy an ugly looking property from an auction? And how are you going to sell that in the future? It's deciding what way to build a portfolio and what type of property that's going to give them sleepless nights. So identifying their risk, what their comfort zone is, and then helping them see from different models of properties that we've already got let, how that can be achieved. Take them out to see some property, an actual live property that's let, whether it's a multi-let or a family let, or whether it's in a rundown area. With some of the rundown areas give great yields, but they're not attractive. You probably wouldn't want to live in it ourselves, but there's a lot of demand. So I'll spend anything from 2 hours to a day with somebody, introducing them to the market. Then I'll spend many hours with them afterwards, looking at potential property, visiting the property, either with them or without, because many of the people don't live locally, so it's not easy for them to see it. I don't make any charge, because the amount of money that we're going to earn from them in the next 10 or 20 years and the lifetime of their ownership of that property, I have plenty of chance of making money from them. And I also see it as a conflict of interest when you see buyers' agents who are offering to buy a property at a so-called discount, and they're going to charge 2 or 4% of the purchase price for negotiating such a good deal for a buy-to-let investor. I think that's a conflict of interest personally. So being a letting specialist and having a complete clear line between us and sales at this stage, I believe, has a value to investors, because we can at least say that we have no conflict of interest. As letting specialists, what we can do that would be as a real value to investors and buyers is go out and view the properties that are on the market. Now, the first thing I do, rather than spending all my time driving around Peterborough or driving around Cambridge to try and find property for people, is ask them to send me web links. And when I've got a web link, I'll usually same day or next day, give them a brief bit of feedback in terms of what type of tenant the property is likely to attract. Most properties have got internal photographs, so I can see from the photographs if it's had alterations, and then point out that they may ask for building certificates to make sure that any changes have been done in a compliant way. I can give them an idea of the rent that it's likely to achieve, and whether I know that the road that they're looking at actually has got a problem, or if it's in an additional licensing zone or a selective licensing zone with different legal requirements. So a landlord will often, or an investor will often, send me 5 or 10 links, which I'll say within 24 hours, normally I'll feed back to them. And then we'll narrow it down to 2 or 3 properties. And either I, Luke or Elsa will go and visit those properties and then give them more accurate feedback. And if they're out of area landlords, or they're landlords or going to be landlords who don't want a hand on the property, they want us to deal with it, we'll get them estimates for improvements or repairs, alterations that are needed to complete it. And with many of our investors, I actually broker the deals, because the estate agents will be far more open with information to me than they will be to a member of the public on the street. They're not quite so keen to divulge what the vendor will willingly accept. So that helps us broker a better deal. I'll negotiate into a deal that we have viewing access from the time that an offer is accepted. That means that we can get on and market the property, and usually we've even got a tenant ready to go in before completions arrived. So the whole thing is to try and make the experience of the investor one where they feel comfortable with us, they've built up a partnership rather than just a buyer-supplier relationship, so they see us as partners in helping them buy, create and manage this portfolio. And we're helping them buy the property at the lowest price that's possible, and avoid buying a property which is going to be an ugly monster, which is going to sit on the shelf for a long time with lots of voids and then be difficult to sell at the end.